chosen ones. The price he pays for hurting a chosen woman. When a man dares to break the heart of a woman chosen by God, it is not merely a personal betrayal. It is an affront to heaven's divine purpose. It is not just her spirit that is wounded, but the very plan of God that is threatened. She is not an ordinary woman. She is a daughter of the Most High, handpicked for a destiny far greater than what the world can see. Her calling, forged through trials and prayers, is a fire that has been stoked in the depths of divine purpose. And when that fire is touched by betrayal, it does not extinguish, it burns even brighter, calling forth the protection and power of the Almighty to the world. She may seem like any other woman, with her struggles and her pain, but to heaven, she is a warrior marked, chosen, and equipped for greatness. Every tear she sheds is a prayer that ascends to God. Every trial she endures is a refining of her spirit, preparing her for the calling that no one else could carry. Her strength is not just physical, but spiritual. It is the strength of a woman who has walked through the fire and emerged unscathed, her spirit made stronger, her faith made deeper. It is a power that cannot be seen, but it can be felt, like the stillness before a storm, or the quiet thunder that follows lightning. When harm comes to her, it does not go unnoticed by heaven. Every wound she receives is met with divine intervention. The consequences of such harm do not simply affect her. They echo through the heavens. When the world tries to silence her, God speaks louder. When others seek to break her, God uses that very attempt to build her up. For a chosen woman is never truly alone. No matter how deep the hurt, she is never forgotten. Even when the world seems to turn its back, in every season of suffering, God is at work. And in every moment of pain, He is drawing her closer to the fullness of her divine purpose. What makes her power unique is not the absence of hardship, but her response to it. A chosen woman does not collapse under the weight of her burdens. She rises. She rises through prayer, through resilience, through divine alignment with God's will. Her prayers are not mere words, they are weapons, capable of tearing down strongholds and breaking chains. Her resilience is not the product of her own strength, but of a divine force that works in her and through her, shaping her into the woman God intended her to be. And her alignment with heaven's will is what guides her path. Even when the road ahead seems unclear, there is power in her silence, power in her resilience, power in her faith. A chosen woman is not just a survivor. She is a living testament to the transforming power of God's love. Every hardship she faces only serves to refine her, to elevate her, and to prepare her for the great work that lies ahead. She may not always understand why she suffers, but she knows that her story is one of divine purpose, a purpose that cannot be thwarted by the world or by any man who dares to challenge the will of heaven. And in the end, it is this sacred fire within her that will be the catalyst for the change the world so desperately needs. When a man inflicts harm upon a woman chosen by God, he steps onto sacred ground without realizing the profound consequences that await. This is no ordinary offense. It is not merely a slight against her. It is an affront to the very heart of God. Yet, in the midst of this transgression, something extraordinary happens. God's conviction begins. Its quiet, relentless pursuit of the man who has broken what He has ordained. It is not a harsh punishment, nor is it a swift stroke of wrath. No, it is something far more powerful. A divine pursuit of the heart, a calling to turn away from the path of destruction and return to the embrace of grace. Conviction is not a force that comes to condemn. It is a force that comes to reclaim. It does not shout or impose itself through forceful retribution. Instead, it moves gently, like a river eroding stone over time, softly and persistently pushing a man to face the truth he would rather avoid. In those quiet moments, when the man lies alone with his thoughts, when the distractions of the world fade away and silence fills the space, that is when conviction does its work. It is the whisper that cannot be ignored, the presence that fills the room, even when no one else is there. Though he may try to run from it, burying himself in work, in pride, in new distractions, conviction will follow him. Not with force, but with patience. It does not need him to come willingly. It simply waits for the moment when he can no longer hide from what he has done. Like a shadow, it cannot be outrun. Like the steady tick of a clock, it reminds him of the time that has passed, and of the price he has paid for his disregard. It leads him back, not to punishment, but to repentance, where healing can begin, and where restoration is possible. This pursuit of conviction is not without mercy. In fact, it is God's mercy at its core. It is the opportunity to turn from sin before the consequences become irreversible. We see this clearly in the story of Cain, whose offering was rejected by God, and whose anger led him to murder his brother, Abel. But God did not abandon Cain. Instead, he confronted him with a question: "Where is your brother?" Calling Cain to face the consequences of his actions and offering him a chance to repent. Though Cain chose to ignore the divine pursuit, the invitation was clear: repent and turn back to me. Even in Cain's defiance, God's mercy remained, though it was veiled beneath the surface. Similarly, we find Peter, who denied Christ 3 times in a moment of fear. When the rooster crowed, the weight of his actions hit him like a thunderclap. Yet, this was not divine wrath, but divine mercy at work. Conviction pierced his soul, and though the guilt was sharp, it was a guilt that led to transformation, not destruction. Peter did not remain in his shame. Instead, he repented. And through this divine encounter, he was restored, reaffirmed by Christ himself, who asked him, "Do you love me?" 3 times. Each question an invitation to heal, to grow, and to become the leader God had destined him to be. The man who harms a chosen woman may think he can escape the consequences, but God's conviction will not be thwarted. It follows him into his moments of triumph and his times of defeat, urging him to face the truth, to turn back from the path he's on, and to seek the restoration that only comes through repentance. Conviction is not a sentence. It is an invitation. It does not punish. It pursues. It does not destroy. It redeems. And in that pursuit, it offers the greatest gift of all: the chance for a man to return to the loving arms of God, to heal, and to start again. Favor is a divine current, flowing from the heart of God to his people, a stream of grace that nourishes, elevates, and empowers those who walk in alignment with his will. But this favor is not something that can be earned through charm, charisma, or the accomplishments that the world celebrates. It is a sacred gift, entrusted to those who honor God's purposes and his people, especially the chosen vessels he has set apart for his divine calling. Favor is not bound by earthly rules. It is freely given, but it is also easily misdirected. When a man dishonors a chosen woman, when he wounds her heart or diminishes her value, something shifts in the spiritual atmosphere. The favor that once flowed so freely begins to wane. It does not disappear in an instant, but it gradually fades, like the last traces of daylight before the night fully falls. At first, the man may not even realize what has happened. He may continue to see success in the superficial things: wealth, fame, social accolades, or temporary victories. But beneath the surface, the stream of favor that once carried him forward begins to slow, its flow becoming hesitant, uncertain, and fragmented. Opportunities that once seemed to align perfectly now become harder to come by. Success, once effortless, begins to feel like a constant uphill battle. The smooth path he once walked is now a struggle, and the grace that once accompanied his every step is slipping away, unnoticed. Favor is a divine force that operates through relationships, particularly through those whom God has called and anointed for a specific purpose. It is through them that divine blessings flow, And when a man mishandles or dishonors the chosen one, whether through disrespect, betrayal, or negligence, he effectively cuts off the channel through which his favor once flowed. It is as though the spiritual tap has been turned slightly, and the once abundant stream becomes a trickle. And though the man may not immediately notice, the signs of this loss become evident in his life over time. Consider the story of King Uzziah, a man who once walked in the favor of God. A king who enjoyed great success and prosperity. In the early years of his reign, Uzziah was known for his wisdom and military prowess. Under his rule, Judah prospered, and he was revered by his people. But something shifted as Uzziah's heart began to swell with pride. He allowed his success to blind him to the source of his favor. Instead of recognizing that the blessings he had received were from God, he began to rely on his own strength and abilities. His pride led him to dishonor the sacred boundaries set by God. And in a moment of arrogance, Uzziah entered the temple to offer incense, a privilege reserved only for the priests. It was in this moment of overreach that the favor that had once flowed so freely began to withdraw. The priests confronted him, warning him of the consequences of his actions, but Uzziah's pride would not let him see the truth. He ignored their counsel, continuing to act as if he were beyond reproach. The moment he dishonored the sacred place that God had established for his people, he triggered a spiritual shift. In an instant, the favor that had blessed him began to fade. His life, once marked by God's favor, was now moving in a different direction, a direction that would lead to his downfall. The consequences of Uzziah's actions were swift and severe. He was struck with leprosy, a condition that would force him to live in isolation for the rest of his life. His kingdom, once flourishing, began to unravel. The opportunities that had once come so easily were now closed off to him. The success that seemed like it would last forever now slipped through his fingers, leaving him with nothing but the consequences of his pride. Uzziah, the once great king, now lived in shame and obscurity. A tragic example of how dishonoring the sacred leads to the loss of favor. This story is not just a historical account. It is a spiritual lesson for all who hear it. It serves as a reminder that favor is not something that can be taken for granted or abused. It is a gift that must be stewarded with humility, reverence, and respect for those whom God has chosen. When a man dishonors a woman chosen by God, whether by betrayal, neglect, or disrespect, he is not just dishonoring her, he is dishonoring the very favor of God that flows through her. And though it may not be immediately evident, the effects of this dishonor will show up in his life over time. The opportunities that once seemed to fall into his lap will begin to dry up. The peace he once enjoyed will turn to pressure. The success that seemed to be his destiny will now feel like a struggle. Favor, like all of God's gifts, is not a commodity that can be manipulated. It is a sacred trust, and when it is mishandled, it begins to recede. The man who once walked in God's favor, as Uzziah did, can find himself in a place of spiritual barrenness, separated from the blessings that once flowed so freely. And it is not just about the material blessings or the visible success. It is about the peace, the joy, and the divine alignment that comes with walking in favor. When that favor fades, the man may find himself searching for answers, seeking success in all the wrong places, and never truly finding rest. But this is not the end of the story. God's favor can be restored, just as it was restored to Peter after his denial of Christ, just as it was restored to Uzziah's people after his downfall, and just as it can be restored to anyone who seeks repentance and reconciliation. The key is humility, the willingness to turn from pride and to honor what God has sanctified. When a man humbles himself, when he repents and seeks to honor the chosen ones, he reopens the channel of favor that was once blocked. And in that moment, the favor of God can begin to flow once more, not as it was before, but with a deeper understanding of its value, its power, and its sanctity. In conclusion, the fading of favor is not a swift punishment. It is a gradual withdrawal, a divine consequence of dishonoring what is sacred, but this withdrawal is not final. It is a wake-up call, a divine invitation to repentance, humility, and restoration. For those who are willing to turn, to honor what God has chosen, favor can return. But for those who continue to dishonor and neglect the divine gift, the consequences will only grow more evident, and the decline will continue until the lesson is learned. Favor, like all divine gifts, is to be cherished, respected, and stewarded with humility and reverence. And when that favor is honored, it will flow freely, carrying those who walk in it into the fullness of God's blessings and purpose. In the stillness of a woman's deepest hurt, there lies a sacred work being done, an invisible transformation that no eye can see, but that will shape her into someone the world will one day recognize as a force of divine purpose. When a chosen woman experiences heartbreak, betrayal, or loss, it may seem as if she is being overlooked, forgotten, or left behind. But in truth, these are the moments when heaven is doing the most profound work in her life. It is in the silence, in the quiet spaces where others cannot see, that God is preparing her for something greater than what she could ever imagine. The sacred stillness that surrounds the chosen woman in her moments of pain is not a sign of abandonment. It is a sign of divine preparation. God is not distant or detached. Rather, He is drawing her closer to Himself, away from the noise, the distractions, and the false affirmations of the world. In the quiet, He is removing the excess, the things that would weigh her down, and refining her spirit to carry the weight of the calling He has placed upon her life. These moments of solitude are not periods of inactivity, but of intense spiritual development, where her dependence shifts from people to God alone. The chosen woman does not grow in the spotlight, nor is her calling revealed in the midst of fanfare. Often, God's most powerful transformations occur behind closed doors, in seasons of obscurity, when it seems as though nothing is happening at all. This is the kind of elevation that Moses experienced when he was exiled to the desert. For 40 years, he wandered in a wilderness, tending sheep in the harsh solitude of the desert. To the world, it may have appeared that Moses had been forgotten, his great purpose lying dormant. Yet, in those years of exile, God was shaping Moses into a leader who would one day deliver his people from bondage. The desert was not a place of rejection. It was a place of preparation. The isolation Moses faced was not abandonment. It was God's classroom. Similarly, Esther spent years in obscurity, hidden away in the king's harem, not knowing that her moment of purpose was slowly unfolding behind the scenes. While she may have appeared to be another forgotten beauty in the king's court, God was positioning her for a moment of divine influence. Her time of quiet preparation was the precursor to her rise as a queen who would save her people. She was being elevated in the hidden places, where her beauty, wisdom, and grace were cultivated in silence. When her time came, she was ready, not because she had been seen, but because she had been refined in the quiet work of God. For the chosen woman, her journey of elevation begins in the solitude of brokenness. But it does not end there. God's preparation is not wasted. It is the very foundation for her purpose. The pain she endures, the rejection she feels, and the silence that surrounds her are all part of the process that will one day reveal her in her fullness. In these moments, God is teaching her to depend on Him alone, to rely on His presence and guidance rather than the approval or affirmation of others. It is in solitude that a woman's identity is redefined, not by the opinions of the world, but by the truth of who she is in God's eyes. The transformation that occurs in this sacred silence is not a passive one. It is an active process, where God is working deeply within her spirit, preparing her to carry the mantle of her calling. She learns to trust Him in ways that she never could before, to hear His voice more clearly, and to align herself with His divine timing. Her dependence shifts from seeking external validation to finding her worth in His presence. This shift is powerful because it is in the quiet places that she learns the true nature of her strength, She becomes like a tree with roots that go deep into the soil, unshaken by the storms of life because her foundation is firm in God's truth. God's elevation of the chosen woman is not like the world's view of success, where fame, applause, and recognition are the measures of worth. The elevation God brings is often hidden, unseen by those around her until the appointed time. But when the time is right, there will be no mistaking it. The chosen woman will emerge, not as someone who is self-made, but as someone who has been shaped, refined, and prepared by the hand of God. She will stand with a strength that comes from knowing that she has been through the fire, and emerge not only unscathed, but stronger, wiser, and more equipped for the purpose God has called her to. The solitude of her preparation is not about isolation. It is about alignment. God does not isolate his chosen women to leave them in pain. He isolates them to bring them into closer communion with himself. It is in the silence that she learns to hear the whisper of God, to discern his voice amidst the chaos, and to feel the gentle leading of his Spirit. This time of hiddenness is where she is built, strengthened, and prepared to walk boldly into her purpose. When God elevates a woman, he does so not just by changing her circumstances, but by changing her heart, her mind, and her spirit. He takes the broken pieces of her life and transforms them into the very foundation for her destiny. Just as the finest steel is forged in the hottest fire, so too is the chosen woman's strength forged in the trials, the heartbreaks, and the quiet seasons of her life. These moments of perceived loss are not the end. They are the beginning of her true calling. She may feel invisible, forgotten, or left behind, but in the stillness, she is being prepared for something that will surpass anything she could have imagined. Her elevation will not be based on her achievements, her external circumstances, or her worldly success. It will be based on the work God has done in her heart, the lessons he has taught her in the secret places, and the strength she has gained by relying solely on his presence. In the end, the chosen woman's story will not be one of immediate visibility or easy triumph. It will be a story of faithfulness, perseverance, and trust in the divine process. She may not always understand why God has chosen this path for her, but she will walk it with a quiet strength, knowing that in the silence, God is preparing her for something far greater than what she can see. Her time in solitude will become the foundation for her future, a future where she will rise in the fullness of her calling, prepared to walk boldly in the light of God's divine purpose. And when the time comes, when she steps into the world with all that God has prepared for her, there will be no doubt that her rise was not by her own hand, but by the hand of God, who elevated her in the secret places to a purpose that only he could have orchestrated. When a chosen woman experiences betrayal, abandonment, or heartbreak, the world may tell her that her story is over, that she has been discarded, left behind, or forsaken. But in the economy of God's kingdom, such moments are not the end. They are the beginning of something far greater, far more aligned with his divine plan for her life. After a season of suffering, God does not leave her empty, nor does he allow her to remain in the space of pain and loss. Instead, he steps in with his restorative justice, providing what can only be described as a divine replacement. A divine replacement is not about vengeance, nor is it an act of punishment against the one who hurt her. It is not a pursuit of retribution. It is the gentle, yet powerful, hand of God, directing her forward into what was always meant for her, aligning her with her true purpose, her divine calling, and the person or circumstances that will honor the fullness of who she is. This redirection, often masked in the guise of loss or hurt, is not about returning to what was. It is about stepping into what is and what will be. It is not a backward glance, but a forward step, guided by God's wisdom and his heart for her destiny. God's plan for the chosen woman is always about moving her forward, not to repeat what was lost, but to move her into the fullness of her future. Think of the story of Abigail. She was a woman who lived in a painful marriage to Nabal, a man whose arrogance and foolishness were not only destructive to her, but also to those around him. Nabal's heart was hard, and his actions caused grief to many, including Abigail. Yet, despite her circumstances, she did not become defined by them. She did not shrink into bitterness, nor did she allow her pain to define her future. She was wise, humble, and full of integrity. And when her world seemed to shatter due to Nabal's foolishness and God's judgment upon him, God stepped in, not with vengeance, but with divine redirection. Abigail, in her moment of loss, did not experience the devastation of abandonment. Instead, she was elevated to a new position, one that aligned perfectly with God's original design for her life. She was not left in the shadow of her painful past. She was raised up to be the wife of David, a man after God's own heart. Her divine replacement was not a mere compensation for what she had lost. It was a fulfillment of what God had always intended for her. Abigail's story is a powerful reminder that God's replacements are not about getting back what was taken, but about receiving what was meant for her all along. It wasn't about finding someone better than Nabal. It was about finding someone who aligned with her divine calling, someone who would honor her, protect her, and lead her into the fullness of God's will. David was not a replacement for Nabal in the sense of a mere comparison. David was the man who aligned with the purpose God had already written for her life. In this divine redirection, Abigail was not just healed, she was elevated. She was moved from a place of deep personal suffering to a place of divine purpose, fulfilling a role that was aligned with God's plan for her life. This is the nature of divine replacement. When God removes something or someone from our lives, it is not an act of cruelty or injustice. It is an act of love, an act of positioning us for what we truly need in order to walk in the fullness of our purpose. It is God's way of preparing us to step into the destiny He has ordained for us. Even when we cannot see the path ahead, when a chosen woman experiences loss, it is not a sign that she has been forgotten. It is a sign that God is repositioning her for something greater. God's redirection is not about returning to the past. It is about moving forward into the future, into what was always meant for her. The woman who experiences betrayal or heartbreak may feel as though she has been left behind. But in reality, she is being prepared for the very future that God has always envisioned for her. And this future is not filled with the ghosts of the past. It is filled with new beginnings, with divine alignments, and with relationships that reflect the beauty and strength that God has cultivated in her through the seasons of pain. The divine replacement is not just a person. It can also be a new opportunity, a new calling, or a new sense of peace. It may come in the form of a new career, a new circle of friends, or a fresh sense of purpose that propels her forward into the life she was always meant to lead. Whatever it may look like, the divine replacement is always a gift from God, a sign of His faithfulness and His love. It is not about filling a void left by someone or something. It is about fulfilling the purpose that was uniquely crafted for her. For the chosen woman who has been hurt, who has experienced betrayal, rejection, or abandonment, God is not leaving her to wither in her pain. He is not abandoning her in her hurt. He is leading her forward, step by step, into the place where her purpose will be fulfilled. She may not see it now, but the hand of God is gently guiding her, realigning her with what was always meant for her. He will bring people, opportunities, and circumstances into her life that will fulfill the promises He has made to her. And when those things come, they will come with a fullness, a wholeness, and a sense of divine alignment that will make the wait worth it. God's divine replacements are always marked by restoration. They are not about settling for something less or trying to replicate what was lost. They are about stepping into a new chapter, one that is more aligned with the destiny He has written for her. And this chapter will be far greater than anything she could have imagined when she was caught in the pain of her past. Just as Abigail's story went from sorrow to elevation, the chosen woman's story will also turn from loss to gain, from grief to joy, And from despair to divine fulfillment, God's plan is always forward-moving, never backward, and when He steps in to replace what was lost, He does so with the intention of propelling the chosen woman into the fullness of her calling. There is no setback that can prevent this divine redirection. There is no heartbreak that can rob her of what God has planned, and there is no ending that does not contain the seed of a new beginning. As God's redirection unfolds in her life, she will not just survive, she will thrive. She will walk into a future that is far greater than she ever imagined. With a heart that is whole, healed, and aligned with the divine purpose that has always been hers, the story of the chosen woman is one of divine restoration. God takes what was broken and makes it whole again, not by returning her to the past, but by moving her forward into the future He has always had for her. And when the divine replacement comes, it will not just fill the empty space. It will fill her life with more purpose, more peace, and more alignment with the divine calling that has always been in her life. This is the power of God's restorative justice. It doesn't just replace what was lost, it fulfills what was always meant to be. In the sacred space between heartache and hope, there exists a profound power that only a chosen woman knows the power of her prayers. When life wounds her deeply, when betrayal cuts through her soul like a sharpened sword, the world may expect her to retreat, to fall silent, to surrender to despair. But a chosen woman does not crumble beneath the weight of her suffering. She rises with a strength that is born not from her own might, but from the divine wellspring of prayer that she has cultivated in her heart. Her pain, the very thing that could destroy her, becomes her offering. She does not allow it to make her bitter. She uses it as fuel for her prayers. With every tear shed, with every ounce of hurt, her prayers become anointed declarations of faith, not just for herself, but for the world around her. In the moments of deepest sorrow, her voice becomes the catalyst for transformation, not just in her own life, but in the lives of others. The cries of her heart, desperate yet determined, ascend to heaven as a powerful intercession, shifting the very atmosphere of her circumstances. When a chosen woman prays, she does not pray as a passive observer. She prays as an active participant in the divine unfolding of God's will. Her prayers are not mere words. They are prophetic declarations, carried by the weight of her experiences, her struggles, and her unwavering faith. These are not prayers rooted in doubt or fear. They are prayers steeped in the knowledge that the God she serves hears her, that He sees her, and that He is moved by her cries. With every prayer she utters, she calls forth the promises of heaven, demanding the fulfillment of God's will in the face of every obstacle. Her pain does not hinder her, it empowers her. It gives her a voice that echoes through the corridors of heaven. The transformative power of her prayers is best understood when we look at the story of Hagar. Hagar was a woman who, like so many others, found herself in a place of despair and abandonment. She had been used and discarded, left alone in the wilderness with her son, Ishmael. Alone, without support, without hope, Hagar cried out to God in her desperation. She was not a woman of power in the eyes of the world. She was a servant, an outcast, someone whose worth was overlooked. Yet, in the midst of her pain, her cry reached heaven. God heard her, and He responded. His voice broke through her loneliness, telling her not to fear, for He had heard her affliction. Not only did He provide for her physical needs, but He also promised her that her son would become the father of a great nation. Her prayer, born from the depths of her suffering, became a divine catalyst for provision and protection. God did not turn away from her pain. He met her in it, and from her desperation, He brought forth a divine promise. In that moment, Hagar's prayer became more than a cry for help. It became a declaration of God's faithfulness, a prophetic word that would shape the future of her family. Her tears did not fall in vain. Her pain did not defeat her. It empowered her to speak life over her son and over her circumstances. God's response to Hagar's prayer was not just about meeting her immediate needs. It was about affirming her identity as a chosen vessel, one whose cries could move the heart of God, one whose prayers could alter the course of history. Through her, God showed that no woman, no matter how broken or cast aside by the world, is ever truly forgotten. Her prayers were a testament to the fact that God listens, God responds, and God acts when His daughters call upon His name. When a chosen woman prays, she does not just pray for herself. She becomes an intercessor for those around her. Her prayers break chains and shift atmospheres. There is a spiritual authority that grows within her as she learns to pray through the storms. Each prayer she offers strengthens her position in the heavenly realm. Her authority is not of her own making, but is birthed through the intimacy she shares with God. She has seen the depths of suffering and knows that it is through God's strength that she endures. And so, her prayers carry weight. They carry the weight of her experiences, the weight of her faith, and the weight of the God she serves. Her prayers do not simply ask for change. They demand it. Her prayers align with the will of God, and they do not stop until heaven responds. The very act of her intercession shakes the spiritual realm, shifting the atmosphere around her. She is not a passive observer in her life. She is an active participant in the unfolding of God's will. When she prays, she knows that her words are not just heard, they are answered. They are the tools by which God's will is established on earth as it is in heaven. Through her prayers, she builds altars of faith, creating spaces where God's presence can dwell and His power can move. As her authority grows through prayer, she begins to understand that her prayers are not just for her own needs. They are for the needs of others. She prays for her family, her friends, her community, and even for those who have wronged her. She learns that forgiveness and grace flow through her prayers, and that her power lies not in what she demands for herself, but in what she is willing to intercede for on behalf of others. Through her prayers, she becomes a conduit of God's love and grace, reaching out to those in need and calling down heaven's blessings for them. This is the transformative power of a chosen woman's prayers. They are not just words, they are weapons of spiritual warfare. They are not just requests, they are prophetic declarations that shift the atmosphere, break chains, and bring forth the kingdom of God. Every prayer she prays carries the weight of her journey, her pain, and her faith. And as she prays, she rises. She rises above the hurt. She rises above the betrayal. She rises above the circumstances that once sought to destroy her. And through her prayers, she becomes a beacon of hope, a living testament to the power of God to heal, restore, and transform. Her prayers are not just a response to her pain, they are the very thing that transforms her pain into purpose. With every prayer she prays, she rises higher, moving closer to the fulfillment of her divine calling. And as she continues to pray, she will see the fruits of her labor, broken chains, restored relationships, and a heart that is no longer burdened by the weight of past betrayals, but empowered by the grace of God. Through her prayers, she will become the woman God has always known her to be: strong, resilient, and powerful in Him. A chosen woman's prayers are not simply words. They are a testament to the God who listens, to the God who answers, and to the God who transforms. And when she prays, she is not just speaking to heaven, she is partnering with heaven to bring about His will on earth, to shift the atmosphere, to break chains, and to bring forth His divine purpose. Her prayers are a declaration of faith, a battle cry in the Spirit, and a reflection of the power that is resident within her, a power that will never be extinguished, but will continue to rise, to heal, and to transform the world around her. In a world that prizes noise, validation, and outward performance, the chosen woman's silence stands as a quiet testament to a strength that the world often overlooks. It is easy to confuse silence with passivity, to assume that when she withdraws into herself in moments of pain or betrayal, she is simply retreating, hiding, or giving in to weakness. But in truth, the silence of the chosen woman is not a sign of frailty. It is the echo of a divine strategy unfolding. It is a powerful stillness where God works behind the scenes to refine her, elevate her, and prepare her for the purposes He has designed for her life. Her silence is not a passive surrender. It is an active place of transformation where the noise of the world fades away and the voice of God becomes the only one she hears clearly. The weight of her silence is the weight of God's presence, carrying her through seasons of hurt and disappointment with a strength that is invisible yet undeniable. It is in the moments when she chooses not to retaliate, not to respond in anger or desperation, but to sit in the stillness of her pain that her true strength begins to emerge. This is not a silence born of fear or defeat. It is a silence born of trust. It is the silent trust that, in this moment, God is working on her behalf. Even when she cannot see it, it is the quiet assurance that though she may not have the answers, she knows that He who called her is faithful and that His timing is always perfect. Her silence becomes a strategy, a deliberate choice to allow God to do His work without interference. When the chosen woman faces injustice or hurt, the natural human instinct might be to fight back, to demand answers, to seek validation. But she understands that her true power lies not in her ability to argue or defend herself, but in her ability to trust in God's perfect plan. She knows that in her silence, she makes room for God to reveal His will, to realign her heart with His, and to elevate her in ways she could never achieve through her own efforts. In the quiet moments, when the world expects her to shout, to explain, or to seek retribution, she chooses stillness because she understands that her purpose is being revealed in the very silence that the world misjudges. This silence, far from being an absence of strength, is a deep well of inner power. In the absence of noise, the chosen woman learns to listen, not to the demands of the world or the voices of those who would seek to diminish her, but to the whisper of God. It is in this silence that she learns to walk in revelation rather than seeking the fleeting approval of others. Her reliance shifts from external validation to divine alignment. Where once she may have measured her worth by the opinions of others, she now finds her identity and value in the heart of God. And in this transformation, she discovers that the peace she has long sought does not come from approval, but from walking in harmony with God's will for her life. The world may look at her and see only quiet, only stillness, but what they fail to see is the strength that is being built in her silence. True strength is not found in the loudness of one's voice or in the visible performance of one's actions. True strength is found in the quiet moments of surrender, where the chosen woman chooses to trust God's timing, even when it seems like everything around her is falling apart. It is in the waiting that her strength is honed, as she learns to wait on God's perfect timing and not rush into something that is not yet aligned with His plan. This waiting is not passive, it is an active choice to align herself with God's purpose. Even when she cannot see the road ahead, it is the understanding that God's delays are not denials, they are preparations. In her silence, she is not inactive. She is being prepared. The waiting season is one of spiritual cultivation, where God prunes away the parts of her that are not meant for her destiny and strengthens the parts of her that are. It is in the quiet places that she is refined, shaped, and made ready for the elevation that is coming. And it is in this transformation that she becomes a woman of deep spiritual authority, one who knows the power of God's timing and walks with the confidence that comes from knowing she is aligned with His will. Her silence is also an invitation for God to reveal the deeper truths of her heart. As she chooses not to respond in haste or react impulsively, she opens herself to the possibility of divine revelation. In the stillness, God speaks to her in ways that are impossible to hear when she is caught up in the noise of the world. It is here that she learns who she truly is, beyond the pain, beyond the rejection, beyond the hurt. In her silence, God uncovers her true identity as His beloved daughter, chosen and set apart for a purpose that no one else can fulfill. It is often in these moments of deep personal transformation that a woman's true strength is revealed. As she walks in the quiet assurance that God is at work, she has not only transformed herself, but she also begins to shift the very atmosphere around her. The silence that once seemed to be a space of vulnerability becomes a place of spiritual power. She walks with a quiet authority, one that is rooted in her trust in God and in the understanding that He is guiding every step she takes. Her silence becomes a weapon, not against others, but against the forces of darkness that would seek to derail her purpose. The chosen woman's silence is not a weakness. It is the greatest strength she can possess. In a world that demands answers and actions, it is a silent declaration that she knows her worth is not found in the noise of the world, but in the peace of God. In her silence, she learns to move in divine timing, to act in alignment with God's purpose, and to trust that He is working all things together for her good. This silence is not the absence of power. It is the very foundation of the power that will carry her into her destiny. In the waiting, in the quiet, in the moments when she could react in anger or frustration, the chosen woman learns that true strength lies not in the performance of the world, but in the peace of knowing she is walking in God's perfect will. She is not moved by the world's applause, nor does she seek validation from others. She is anchored in the knowledge that God's timing is always perfect, and that His plans for her are far greater than anything she could ever orchestrate on her own. This is the weight of her silence. It is the weight of God's presence, the weight of divine alignment, and the weight of a woman who has learned to trust in the timing of heaven. It is in this silence that her true strength is revealed, and it is from this place of strength that she will rise, not just for herself, but for the world that will one day see the woman God has been preparing all along. The silence, once misunderstood, becomes the birthplace of her most powerful transformation, and when the time comes, she will speak with a voice that is not only heard by the world, but felt by it, because her silence has been the very foundation of her power. As the journey of the chosen woman unfolds, it becomes clear that her path is not one of vengeance, not one of seeking to right every wrong or gain closure from those who hurt her. No, her journey is far greater than that. It is a journey of transformation, a journey of healing and alignment with the divine purpose for which she was created. Every challenge, every heartbreak, every betrayal was not meant to break her, but to build her, to refine her into the woman God always knew she could become. The moments that felt like setbacks were merely setups for God's redirection, guiding her ever closer to the future He has prepared for her. We often think of life's wounds as things to be avoided or conquered, but in the divine narrative, they are stepping stones, leading us to deeper strength, wisdom, and purpose. As the chosen woman moves through these trials, she begins to realize that every struggle was not a detour, but a divine invitation, a call to rise above the hurt, to let go of the past, and to embrace the fullness of her calling. In her pursuit of healing, she discovers a deeper truth. The purpose she carries is not just for her own benefit, but for the transformation of the world around her. Every moment of suffering has been preparing her to step into that purpose, to be a beacon of hope and strength for others. It's easy to get caught in the trap of chasing after what has been lost, seeking revenge, clinging to the desire for closure, or holding on to the pain in an attempt to find meaning. But God's calling for the chosen woman is not found in the pursuit of these things. It is found in her ability to release them. When she lets go of the need to control the past, she makes space for God to move powerfully in her future. The very things that once caused her to stumble become the platform from which she will soar. Every betrayal, every scar, every tear becomes a part of the foundation of the woman who will change the world. She is not just surviving, she is becoming. In the divine reworking of her life, the chosen woman finds herself stepping into a destiny far beyond her own expectations. She realizes that her life is not just for herself, it is for a greater purpose. God has called her to be a force of change. She is meant to shift atmospheres, to break chains, to speak life where there is death, and to carry His light into the darkest places. It's not about what she's been through. It's about what she will do with the strength and wisdom she has gained. She is anointed for this moment, chosen to fulfill a divine purpose that has been written in the stars long before she ever took her first breath. And so, as she embraces her calling, she rises with a boldness that comes from knowing her worth is not defined by what she's lost, but by what she is becoming. She steps forward with the power of divine grace, knowing that she walks not in her own strength but in the strength of God's purpose for her life. She is no longer bound by the pain of the past. She is propelled forward by the promise of the future. She is no longer defined by the hurts that once tried to break her. She is defined by the strength that now flows from her. This is her moment, not just to heal, but to become a change maker, a force to be reckoned with. As she walks boldly into the future that God has prepared for her, she does so with the knowledge that she is not just a survivor. She is a conqueror. She is a woman marked by God, filled with His power, and ready to fulfill her divine purpose. Her story is not one of lingering in the ashes, but of rising from them with the fire of God burning brightly within her. And as she embraces this divine calling, she becomes the change she has been waiting for. She is not just walking into her future, she is transforming the world as she goes. The fullness of her calling is not just in the future she will shape, but in the woman she is becoming today. So, let her walk in the strength of her transformation. Let her rise with grace, wisdom, and purpose. For as she embraces her divine purpose, she is not just surviving, she is becoming a force of change, guided by the infinite power of God's love and purpose. She is walking boldly, confidently, and faithfully into the future that has been designed for her, knowing that every step she takes is one step closer to fulfilling the divine destiny she was always meant to fulfill.